Hi, René here. At the end of a year, it's quite natural to look back at the good things and the bad things which have happened in this period of time. In this video, I would like to invite you to be my guests during the 2 most sensational listening sessions I have experienced in my 50 years hi-fi journey. Star of the show is my Jadis JP30 MC Mark III, a tubed preamplifier with Phonostage. Lean back and enjoy my highlights of 2025. The following disaster movie tells about my first vinyl enjoyment with the Jadis JP30. A cozy evening, candlelight and a glass of wine, I was looking forward to the first musical evening using the built-in Phonostage of the JP30. I was waiting quite a while for the 45-pound aluminium platter of my Acoustic Solid Royal to get up to speed. In the meantime, full of anticipation, I took out an LP from its sleeve and chose which piece was to receive the honor of being the first to fill my listening room with the allegedly beautiful sound of the Jadis. Then I turned the selector switch to Phono MC, which was accompanied by an incredible blast in the speakers, which is typical of all Jadis Phonostages, one of their brand features, so to speak. Before I had the least chance to put the LP on the platter, unfortunately a thunderstorm assaulted my hometown. I was afraid the terrifying sound I heard was due to the rain coming down through a hole in my roof, but a glimpse upwards alleviated my anxiety in this respect. Everything looked okay. So I turned my head towards the sea instead, because it was possible that the noise was coming from the coast. After the historical tsunami on December the 24th in 2004, a second disaster of this kind was a conceivable explanation for the weird humming sound. But when everything looked as usually on the horizon, I suddenly began to realize that the sound did not come from outside, but from my own speakers. It was so realistic, however, that I did not attribute it to the actual source, the Jadis JP30 Phonostage. I invite you to watch the full documentary clip that my camera, which just kept running and filming on auto, took about this musical evening, and you will fully understand my confusion. I switched the preamp and the power amp on to warm them up for a delightful listening session, and used the half-hour waiting period to do some work in the adjacent office when I suddenly heard a violent shooting. I was puzzled because I had not turned on the TV, and in the first place I usually don't watch Western or combat movies. Only a split second after that I was shocked by a second surprise when I heard a noise like the spectacular sound of the Niagara Falls broke loose. I fought my way into the room, wading against the almost physical counterforce, which was backed up by a sound mix that surpassed the inferno of a metal rock concert. I summoned up all my courage to pass the area of the humongous spaceship in the process of launching and the Star Wars soundscape next to it. There was no time for a well-thought-out step-after-step solution. I tore the main plug out of the socket, and this brave emergency act brought the machinery to a standstill and saved my eardrums from extinction. After that, of course, I did not dare to switch the Jadis on again. The following day I sent it to my dealer for repair on warranty. Since that, nothing has happened anymore, but the Phonostage is still humming and I have never used it anymore. I bought a separate Phonostage because the shop refused to take back the defective device, saying this failure does not show up in their shop and was due to an electrical issue in my house. But I have no problem with my Bell's Phonostage, no problem with my Cayin CS-6PH, no problem with my Italian $6,000 Audia Flight, no problem with a project Phono Box, only the Jadis failed. One man's loss, another man's gain. Take my experience into account if you plan to buy a device like this. However, I hope that I will have more pleasant stories in 2026. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again. Cheers.